Reality check, man, from your device. You know, it's a unique one, aromatic, realistic TV. Anyway, today, cut long story short. So Richard Curry reject the soul of them in a compound town. And all hell broke loose. And everybody have it now to say the Maroon them are when traitor. And the Maroon them sell out other slave. And all of that. But my reason we do here now, my viewers and subscribers, and all of the bossy slave them and the old slave them, what they try to use the white man history. Seeing for this the Maroon them, we ask them some question. So when the Maroon them went out there and I burned down the cane field them, and I set the slave them free, were they traitors then? We will ask the question again. When the Maroon them and I burned down the cane field them, and I set the slave them free, were they traitors then? The slaves that were fighting alongside the British to capture the Maroon, were those slave traitors to the Maroons? Let me ask you now again. The slave who were working alongside the British to capture the Maroon, were those slave traitors then? We just ask you a question. Because I use the white man history why I'm right to tarnish the reputation of the Maroons. You are believing, and convincingly in the white man history why I'm right to justify for the white man powers and dominance over the Maroon. The man who write the script, him go write if it benefit them, for them look good. You understand what I ask my viewers and subscribers? So listen this, now my viewers and subscribers. There was a treaty signed between Culture Maroon and the British in 1738 or 1739. I stand to be correct. One of those here. When you sign a treaty, it simply means you have to give up something. So the British them tell Kojo and him troops, say, listen to me. You can't make no more slave come up here. Because the agreement is that we're going to go to the cockpit country. And that was signed in existence by Edward Trelawney, British governor at the time. So them get the cockpit and those areas. That was an agreement. So, we're going to set you free and you're gone. But if you make no more slave, run will come up here. The war is on again. Now remember, some of those same slaves who were fighting alongside the British to capture the Maroon them. Who to tell if some of them slaves they are not Trojan ass? So the Maroon them have to think out of the box and say we can't let in more. But if we let in more, it can cause trouble. It's like a double-edged sword, because we want to let them in, and at the same time, we can't let them in and them lead the British them to it. And we can't let them in and the British start the war again. So no see it say the Maroon them have to think and think fast and think outside of the box. So them claim say the Maroon them return slave. If you don't have a choice and you sign a treaty and you have to give up something and that was a part of the treaty, what else are you going to do? Me and you know say anywhere Jamaican go, they mash it up. Because me are using the Jamaican bosses slave them, you know. Oh, slave them, you know, wanna be now, you know. Me I use them as the perfect example in this. Anywhere them go, them mash it up. Look them what they scam. Them are scamming, you know. And no say you know right because the people who know thief people money, you know, and turn people good for nothing, you know. But you know on TikTok and YouTube they do video on no scam people. You want a stupid set of people and that. Look on them on TikTok. Some of them literally they sell them body on TikTok, you know. You understand? You understand? And look how them bring the app to a disgrace. You have Jamaican them married. And so then they married for document. And they video it and they laugh and they talk about it. Anything where them get involved in, they mash it up. So the Maroon were very strategic in what they do. And how them accept some of these people in them territory. Because who to tell if some of these slave was not Trojan horse? Who to tell that some of these slaves would not lead back the British to them? Because remember, some of these slaves were fighting alongside the British to capture the Maroons. Because when you talk about both slave and all slave, you know, then think that them white. Them love the slave master, them want how them love themselves. If the slave master say him go dead, them ask him if them can take the dead for them. So if you understand what is going on in the playbook, who to tell the Paul Bogle and the Sam Sharp them what them capture? Who to tell if not the same slave them that were fighting alongside the British at them capture the man them? But as I said, the man who put the paper to the pen and write the history, him go write the history to make it look good pan them. And write the history to make it look bad pan the next side, which is the slave. So you are telling me about the slave, them a traitor and this and that. But the same slave were burn down how much cane field and free how much slave were they traitor then. The slave that work alongside the British to capture the Maroon them were those slave traitors to the Maroons. Make the thing make sense, no man. But because you don't want to find a way off it going at the compound. And everything what a brother you want him Anju Wellness do, you believe say is right because you don't want to have him as a false God. You don't want to try to take side. And want to use the history what the white man write. The same white man want to say you don't want to lead, you know. The same white man in Mark Golden want to say you don't want to lead, you know. But the same white man will write a history and they try to demonize the Maroons. And that the history that you don't want to use from the Maroon. The same history what the white man write. And that the same history that you don't want to use to destroy the reputation of the Maroon. The field slave and the horse slave and the bossy slave them. Because remember at the end of the day, you know, the most dangerous slave, you know, are the one who in the field, you know. Because the horse slave in the house. But how would the horse slave get the information? What the field slave plan to do if one of the field slave did not go and inform the slave what in the house? Me they ask again, the field slave is more dangerous than the old slave, because the old slave in the house and the field slave them out there the plan them get away, and it's one of the field slave who bring back that information to the old slave for the old slave to pass it on to his master. So if that be the case, and the Maroons say we are sending you down the back, because remember, you know, some of the slave them love them master more or them love themselves. We don't know no plans, we don't know no motive, and we now come make no mash up this, because if we ain't letting them slave there, probably we wouldn't in a Jamaica today. But we don't want to use the right man history to tarnish the reputation of a Kojo and a Nanny. And the other slave them that fought to basically liberate that spot there from the British. So the man them ever talk, them ever say, we know the agenda, we know the motive of the Prime Minister, and uno want to go in there go destroy the cockpit country. And that you want to do. And want to use reverse psychology. But the slave them are in traitor. You can't trick Aromatic. Because the Matic was never a field slave. And the Aromatic was never a house slave. The Matic independent and free from all of them things there. So on the line of reasoning, on the level of study, we don't go down them trad there. Because of one thing may I tell you, the man that write the history, him go and write the history to make his side look good and the opposite side look bad. Remember this, a field slave will always be a slave because him love the slave master than how him love himself. The old slave is no better off because him can wear the slave master pupina and him can yam the crumbs from him table. So him praise and honor the slave master. And if the master fell ill, he would ask the master if him want him to die for him. So he will always remain in the position that you are. The labor rights them are no different from those slaves then. They are the same thing to this evil and dictator guy, Anju Wellness. No different. Both a slave, house slave and field slave. Right there so the thing said. Don't chat. The signature word never change. It remains to love. Until then, you know, the Matic will chat again. Peace. Love. Matic is out.